half the videos with me are like 6, 7, just doing stupid stuff, yelling 6, 7. It's insane.
6, 7, 6, 7.
$6 to $7 million on the table right now.
6,
7. You see it? Up and down. That's crazy. Your numbers don't justify anything close to that. You're valuing this like it's already public. It's worth it, and you know it.
6,
7.
no chance.
Mark Cuban is going all in on AI, and you heard him talking about all the AI videos he's appeared in lately, including lots with the 6, 7 meme. He's backing AI companies, he's thinking about how it will change everyday life, and he has strong views on what people need to navigate a world with AI. Mark and I connected and geeked out on topics like robotics and computer vision. And that's our episode today. It's a wide-ranging, no-holds-barred chat that I had a lot of fun recording. I hope you enjoy this look into the mind of Mark Cuban. Hi, Mark. Welcome to Pioneers of AI.
Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
So I want to start with Sora. So for our listeners who don't know what Sora is, it's OpenAI's video creation tool. You can create these short clips with yourself, your friends, and with celebrities if the celebrity has allowed it. And you were one of kind of a very early in allowing people to create videos of you, and you kind of went viral. Why did you decide to go all in?
Well, so I went in, like, I try everything, right? I just love to play with everything. So you have the opportunity to do a cameo is what they call it, right? Where you put it up just like doing facial recognition type setup. And then they have these delimiters that you can add to limit, or define how you want things to proceed. You can put, don't do this or don't do that. But I was like, I wonder if I can use this for marketing. And so I put on there, always finish with the logo of costplusdrugs.com, one of my companies. And let's just see if it works. And damn if it didn't work. And it was just always there. So I'm like, if people want to put it out there, have fun. Because, they do have guidelines and limits to what they'll allow people to make you do. They don't always go far enough, but they're still relatively safe. So I don't even know. I think there's been 4,000 or 5,000 videos created of me. And the funny thing is, right, I was sitting right here when I did it, and I just cut myself shaving. And so I had this mark right there. And I'm like, now I'm going to know if it's whatever, if anytime you see a video of me with a little shaving cut, I know that it's from the AI. I know it's from Sora.
That is funny because we made a video of you, which we want to show you. And we used it to announce that you were coming on the show. And we actually asked the audience to submit questions, which we have a few of, and we'll tackle that later. But we want to show you the video.
Okay.
What questions about AI should we talk about on the Pioneers of AI podcast?
You're a little stiff, to be fair, but your voice sounds exactly like you. And I feel like if somebody doesn't know you super well, they could really think it's you.
No, it's crazy. Like,
right?
People have used me to do promotions. Come to Destin, Florida, to vacation. And I got an email from a friend, and he was like, "You're going down to Destin? I have a place there. We should meet." But my latest ones were me winning the somersault competition of the Olympics and being crowned world champ. Another one being
Can you actually do a somersault? Can you actually do it?
Yes. Will I? No. But Sora knows how to make me do a somersault, so it's been fun.
That is so fun. Well, to your point, though, you have all of your AI-generated videos include cost plus drugs, which is really genius because it's free advertising.
Yep.
Do you envision that will be the future of advertising in a way?
No, not really. That was more of a kludge on my end just to see if it worked. And now because it's new, people are willing to do it. And because it's 10 seconds, it's not worthwhile to go to another platform and remove the Sora or Cost Plus logos. I mean, even though some people have. So it's more just about learning for me because the beauty of this is that you can iterate so many times and so quickly. And then if you want to edit, you can edit them together into something. And, but right now, it's just the first inning, and it's a chance to play for it.
Do you have a digital twin of yourself that's out there that say, I want to book a meeting with you that I could just go talk to your twin?
No, but I did. So I was the first investor in a company called Synthesia.
Oh, and wow. They're doing really well. They're crushing
really
it.
well.
That's a British company that creates human-like AI avatars. They just raised a new round of funding, and they're reportedly valued at $4 billion.
7, 8 years ago, I invested because I wanted to try to get in front of all these different AI things and computer vision and neural network stuff. The Mavs went to China in 2019, and I had an avatar that had me speaking Chinese that they put up on the Jumbotron in China. So, I'm not responsive in anything that I'm doing, but on an outgoing basis, then, I've used Synthesia.io and it's been great.
We're both passionate about this idea of I do believe we're at a cusp of a health span revolution, and the combination of new sensor technology, new types of data, and of course, both predictive and generative AI will unlock preventative medicine, personalized medicine. Would love to get your thoughts on this space and how are you thinking about it?
Couple things there. One, your body is just one big math equation, but we don't know all the variables. We don't even know how many there are. But over time, we'll develop new ways to uncover all of that, right? And new sensors to be able to gather new information, new algorithms that'll be able to pull things out of that data. And I think that will make us better at preventive healthcare. You're starting to see more blood tests, analysis of MRIs and X-rays and everything. So I think all those are good steps forward, but we haven't really even got into the computer vision side of it, right? Because computer vision, particularly for robotics and capturing things and analyzing them, is really compute intensive and really hard right now. And it's really hard to get enough stuff to train on. And so I think as we start getting more into CV driven things, we'll see more impact on healthcare and the results will start to be more dramatic. I invested in a company for sports. It uses computer vision to track a player's gait while they're running in a game and to look for nuanced variances from game to game to game, and then using algorithms to try to look to see how it correlates to injuries. And they're getting a lot closer. They started with soccer in the UK and Europe, and now we're starting to do things with basketball, doing those types of things where it's more preventive than reactive. I think we'll see more and more of as we get more in-depth compute with video.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating. My son is a squash player, and he's gotten a number of hamstring injuries and Achilles, tears.
Yeah, anytime you have that quick movement like that, right?
Right.
You're always putting strain on and particularly if you play a lot, you get these repetitive stress injuries.
Exactly. So can you detect that early on and have him, and then personalize the training that he needs to do to stretch and whatever?
Exactly right. All that stuff, it's great training grounds, but we're just in the early days.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're both passionate about both AI and entrepreneurship. So I want to talk about that next. Do you think AI is lowering the barrier to entrepreneurship? Is it easier to...
Oh, yeah, by age and access. I mean, there's so many people. Like, I gave a speech yesterday. So we have this thing, Mark Cuban's AI Foundation Boot Camp. Basically, I had this guy that I did it with yesterday, 6 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. Somebody just sent me a cold email. I'm from Pittsburgh, and they were from Pittsburgh. And they're like, we're trying to come up with ways to introduce AI, or neural networks at the time, into schools for middle school and high school. I'm like, that's great. Somebody needs to come up with an idea to help train kids and get them excited about it. I should just create this thing called a boot camp and just set it up. But yesterday we had 500 people in, including a bunch of kids that were all involved with the boot camps. We started it as a way of going into schools that might not have otherwise had advanced STEM programs or the resources to do this, and making it available to them. And it's just grown from there.
What are you teaching these kids? And I ask this question because obviously the rate at which AI technologies are...
Right. Yeah, so we went from basic neural networks. Here's JavaScript for a 3-layer neural network, 6 years ago, to machine learning. Here's 6 different trees. Here's the attributes. Which tree? Guess which tree is the next one. To now, doing prompting with some understanding of machine learning underneath it, and the probabilistic, approach to that AI takes in generative models.
I love that you're not just teaching these kids to prompt engineer or vibe code, but you're actually teaching them like what's inside the box.
Yeah, how to understand it. I mean, it is a great democratizer. I mean, there few kids, even with the least amount of resources, don't have access to a smartphone.
I think it's not easy though. So I sit on the board of my kids' school, and it's a New England prep school, so it's been around for hundreds of years, and it's been interesting to kind of see how we're going about this. Like, I think there's interest in being at the forefront of using AI in the classroom, but we've also, as a school, struggled on how to bring that to practice. And of course, all
for
the kids
sure.
are already using AI, right?
Oh yeah, they're using it no matter what. Like I was
Right,
talking to the
right.
kids and they're like, they know how, they know if you go into ChatGPT and you have it rewrite something, it's going to use elliptics and all this stuff, right? All the
Yeah.
different tells, and they know how to erase the tells, all
Really?
that stuff. They're way ahead, and they follow all the Instagram and TikTok accounts that have all the AI hacks and all that kind of stuff. So they're way ahead, but the teachers are terrified. And that's what it comes down to. And that was a big purpose of what I was doing yesterday, to try to get them excited that they can do more with kids.
I want to talk about young people a little bit more. So I have two kids.
Like you and I?
Yeah, like exactly. It's funny. So my daughter's 22. People actually often say we look like twins, and I'm like, yes.
That's a
And
great thing,
she
yeah.
rolls her eyes, and she doesn't like that. But my daughter's 22, and my son is 16 and a half. And
My
they
son's
are on
16. Yeah, my son's 16.
Yeah, I think we have like similarly aged
I have a
kids.
daughter who's 22 and one that's 19. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious. My kids are on the opposite sides of the AI spectrum. My daughter Jenna will not use AI for anything.
My
She
middle
loves her
daughter will
brain.
not, hates it.
Really?
Hates
But my son is so AI forward. He uses AI for everything.
Well,
I don't
my
know if
son will use it, but he thinks all AI videos are slop. My middle daughter is concerned about the environmental concerns, right, of
Wow.
AI and all that. And then my
Yeah.
oldest daughter is like, yes, anything that's a hack that makes my life easier, I'm all in.
Good.
So it runs the gamut in the
Yeah.
cubicle.
Well, yeah. So how do you, well, I mean, I guess what's your advice to young people?
Try it. There's always going to be something new,
Something,
always.
yeah.
And the kids adapt the fastest. And it's the
Yeah.
adults that say, oh my God, I'm afraid. And then when it's your kid that knows, back in the day, it was like when a kid could write HTML code to create web pages, they were like a computer genius, right?
Right.
And then if they used up their game to JavaScript, they were like the best of the best of the best. That's just the nature of the beast, right? And kids are just going to adapt more quickly because, like music, like anything else, they want to be in the forefront.
Yeah. And then for our 22-year-olds who are, joining the workforce, what's your advice? I mean, there's a lot of headlines about how these entry-level jobs are going away, and,
There's something that came out today. The unemployment rate for, recent college graduates is 9.2%.
Yeah,
That's scary.
that's
But my
scary.
advice is stop going after the big companies. Go to the small to medium-sized companies. The big companies have IT departments. They have all the AI resources they need. Whereas if you're going to a small or medium-sized company, particularly one that's not a tech company that's entrepreneurial at all, you're like the new great thing. What I tell kids is like, talk to whoever, manager, owner, whatever, and just say, I know how to do AI agents. Let me find all your manual processes or all the things that people hate to do at work here, right? That just are a grind and boring and nobody wants to do them, and let me automate them. That's it. You're saying, these are the things everybody hates to do.
Right.
That take too long, keep everybody late after work. I'm going to create agents that automate that. And we had one of my Shark Tank companies, Rebel Cheese. They sell nothing but vegan cheese. Great stuff. Rebelcheese.com. And so I'm always selling all day. But in any event, so they ship a lot of these cheeses. And when you ship something to consumers, you're putting it in UPS or whatever boxes, right? USPS boxes, and there's set rates for the boxes. And then where you're going to send it to, depends on the distance, that'll impact the rate as well. And you'll come up to a total charge of what the shipping company should charge you. They're always wrong. Most small to medium-sized companies that ship, they know that it's wrong, and they have people that do nothing but review those invoices for accuracy. Here's what they want to charge us. Save $10,000 a week by just creating a basic agent.
Yeah. Very interesting. One of my investment hypotheses, and we will get to investing in AI in a second, is vertical AI. So like looking for all these antiquated industries that have a lot of these manual processes and build like really like focused solutions.
And yeah, it can be like manufacturing, like at Cost Plus Drugs, we use all robots and agents to, just, and sensors to say, okay, if anything's out of kilt, if there's an error message at all, beep, 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 report, recalibrate, do what we got to do with as little human intervention as possible so that we can get the price of manufacturing drugs here to be as cheap or not cheaper where there's cheaper labor costs
Yeah.
elsewhere in the world.
Yeah.
All those things, anytime there's an industry that's been doing it the same way for years, that's ripe with opportunity. Like you said, for the vertical industries, the crazy part is like, I get pitches all day, every day. So all, HVAC and, auto repair and plumbing, all these things, people are trying to do roll-ups and automate those, but getting them to understand what agents are sometimes can be, an obstacle course,
Yeah.
but those things are happening, right? People see them as opportunities.
So we will get to AI investing, but before we do that, I wanted to get to a couple of the audience questions that we
Sure.
got from that Sora call out. And I want these to be lightning round style. So let's go. This one came from Joseph Wehbe on LinkedIn, and he builds these AI ecosystems all around the world. So his question for you is, the US is ranked number 1 in the global AI rankings. What does the US need to do to win the global AI race?
That's a great question because it calls on so many different questions, the ethical, regulatory aspect of it. And I think if we can stay out of the way, but be very persistent in how closely we look at outputs, don't overregulate people who are creating, but
Yeah.
over monitor the output. I'm just saying, if this is what it's designed to do, it might be military, right? Show us so we can review it to make sure we know what you have so you don't go sell it to somebody that shouldn't have it. And I'm concerned about the over-reliance on these big data centers that we're creating, because it's not even so much how much money's being spent, even though that's important. I just can't imagine over a 10-year period that we aren't going to improve the technology enough that if you overspend on today's technology, and particularly now with the administration that's opposed to green energy, and you're seeing even a state like Texas, where you've got a lot of solar energy that's 27, and even wind that's 27% of our energy consumption. I don't know that we're approaching energy the right way, but I'm not an expert in it. It just doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. How do we become kind of the hub for the entire AI infrastructure, whether it's data centers, manufacturing?
Here's the problem. Here's the ultimate problem. You've got 5, 6, whatever it is, companies that are trying to create the ultimate foundational model that we all depend on. Right. It's almost like in the 90s when all the search engines were competing. Pre-Google, right? There was Lycos, Yahoo, whatever, right? There were all these different, and you didn't know if it was going to be a winner take all or a top 5, right?
Right.
Now we know with search engines, it's Google, and then there's Bing has like 1 or 2%, and DuckDuckGo has got a 0.5%.
Right.
And so it's effectively a winner take all. And so you've got all the, Google, Meta, et cetera, OpenAI going all in, spending everything, consuming every resource that they can, just in case it's winner take all.
Right.
And that's going to be really scary because there will come a time where they have to live up to the economics, where they're not going to be able to just use their cash flow or lack thereof and just borrow money, because people are going to start to see the business aspect of it. And that's part 1. Part 2 is they're going to need, if it's a winner take all, they're going to need to figure out how to differentiate themselves. And you're starting to see that now that everybody's trained on everything that's on the internet, right? That they're licensing content. And I think you're going to see some of them start to become part of silos, right? So like when I go talk to hospitals and I go talk to researchers, I'm like, the days of publish or perish are done, right? If you just put your shit out on the internet, you're a moron, because you need to keep all your IP and protect it, and maybe even consider not even patenting it, just keep it as a trade secret, and then either use it for your own model, because I think there's going to be millions of models, right? Or auction it off to the highest bidder. You saw Open Evidence do a deal with the New England Journal of Medicine and JAMA, right? So you're going to see these companies try to learn from what happened on the internet and search engines and protect their IP, and then auction it off. And so how does that impact all of the foundational models trying to win the game? You just don't know yet. Should MD Anderson have their own model? Should Mayo Clinic have their own model, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Those are the things from the business side that we still have to figure out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this idea of data as the moat, right, is becoming more and more powerful. All right, here's a more philosophical question that was asked by Steve Song. Hi, Steve, on Instagram. How do we embed AI with maternal instincts?
That's a really weird question. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
But I will say this, maternal instincts relative to models. The thing about AI, it doesn't know how to say, I don't know. It doesn't know how to say, I'm wrong, unless you tell it why it's wrong and it agrees with you, right? The best it can do is set a probabilistic threshold of why it might not be accurate and determine that if there's a 20% chance I'm wrong, I'm going to say, I don't know, right? But that's not knowing that you don't know.
Right.
That's trying to find out a way to say you know, but not knowing. So going to maternal instincts, right? You talk to your mom and my wife talked to her mom and women talk, because that's a unique experience there. How does AI do that, right? Love and all that kind of thing that goes into the equation, you're never going to create. You can pretend to create it, and we see some weird shit start to happen when people think they've recreated it, but you can't. And so just the latency of real life versus models, you'll never be able to replicate all of it. But you can use it as an information source.
When we FaceTimed a few weeks ago, you mentioned that you're really interested in founders who are kind of really taking big swings with AI and kind of reimagining how we do life, how we go about life. So I wanted to ask you, what's exciting you most in the AI space?
Less and less every day.
Interesting.
Because
really? Why?
In every new technology swing, you get this rush of entrepreneurs. When the App Store came out, there was a zillion apps that everybody was raising money for. We're already through all the low-hanging fruit. There'll be anecdotal great ideas that are simple that people use existing open source or generative models. But in terms of trying to compete with the foundational models,
that
ship has sailed. Right?
Totally.
So where there's great opportunity, I think, is what happens with video. Now, a bunch of people are trying to get into the labeling business with video. I'm gonna take videos of 50 people folding their sheets and making their bed, right? So a robot can do it, right? I don't think that is anything to write home about. But trying to understand the laws of the universe and trying to figure those things out and trying to, there's one company I looked at that I can't go into too much detail about, but they basically use their version of a spectrometer that looks at what something's made of. And then looks at its physical attributes and its movement attributes and starts using algorithms to try to figure all that out. And AI try to figure out the relationships to know what comes next. And if you can scale that, that's something, because that's what's missing for robots, right? You can't just take regular video and expect it to understand, why little Joey's room is dirty like this, right? Or whatever. It's just not going to do it unless somebody gets to the next level of replicating real life and being able to share it with as little latency as possible. And I want you to disagree. You're allowed to disagree with me on all this stuff.
No, I actually agree. I do agree. One of the areas that I'm most excited about is AI going out of the screen, the 2D kind of, chatbots that is the majority of how people are experiencing AI today, and more into the embodied. And I do think that the intersection of, again, AI, robotics, sensors, perception, right? The visual world is one piece of it. I think we haven't seen that yet.
We are at the That's the holy grail, right? And I don't think robots will be humanoid either. I think the biggest waste is doing humanoid, because everything we have right now is designed for humans to do the work.
Right.
But that's not necessarily the optimal way for work to get done.
Right.
The optimal way to design a home, when it's not humans doing the work, but it's a robot doing the work, should that robot look like a spider drone, right? A little spider that flies.
Right.
And how should the house look when you're redesigning it, knowing that there's a different type of robot that's mobile and can go through the air and do these certain things? You're not going to design it the same way you do today. And so there's going to be some 12-year-old somewhere who's thinking about, what's messed up about their house and working on drones and working on CV and working on robots and AI, who pulls all these pieces together in ways we didn't imagine.
Yeah.
That's the shit that's going to change everything. That's the stuff that can make housing affordable, that can allow people to work in jobs that they prefer, right? Knowing that these other jobs, you know, the robots, however they look or design, are going to do it. And those people who otherwise would have done that housework will monitor the sensors and do all that stuff, or come up with other things, and other places will do the work.
So do you think we're in an AI bubble?
No, but I think there's different ways to look at a bubble. I've been in a bubble before, and
Right.
handled it it worked out very well for me. But back then in the early 2000, late 99, like you'd get into a cab back then and people were talking about stocks. That's all they wanted to talk about. Not even knowing what I did. All your friends would be talking about stocks and what they were buying. All the commercials were all about finally being able to trade, and those commercials used to crack me up. You don't really see that now. You don't see everybody, just all your friends or whatever, always talking about it, unless they own NVIDIA that they bought way back when, and then they're just bragging, right? So I don't think it's in a traditional stock market bubble. But going back to what I said before about the competition for to be the foundational model and a market leader, they may be overspending. And if they overspend or get too caught up, the bubble is in the competition between all of those models, because that could pop just like that with any new technology. Because think about it, all these companies now for 2 years, and they anticipate for at least another decade, spending every penny they have. I mean, if that's not ripe for disruption to come up with better ways, and whoever does that, as opposed to just coming up with an arbitrage, I can save you 1% there or 5% there, kind of like SaaS did when it came in, where it's just on the margin as opposed to incredible, right? Somebody's going to come up with some incredible shit, right? If I knew what it was, I'd do it. I don't know what it is, but that's going to be the game changer.
Well, you've built your career on spotting opportunities early on and kind of knowing the difference between something that's overpriced and something that's going to be the next big thing. How do you do that? Like, what's your secret sauce?
I look for industries where they're set in their ways and how technology would impact them. It's kind of like the innovator's dilemma. Are they willing to change or capable of changing? That's why I got into healthcare. They're so big, they're not willing or capable of changing. And then I look to see if I can do it inexpensively and quickly, because that's the great arbiter, right? Because when you run with the elephants, there's the quick and the dead. You've got to be really, really quick. And unless you're inventing a new industry, like when we did streaming and we were the first company to commercially stream, it was like all in, every penny I had, whatever money we could raise, because we were inventing an industry and we knew that we were going to replace traditional media. And it was just a matter of getting as big as quickly as we could, going public, biggest IPO in the history in the market at that time, yada, 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 right? But to do that in this type of world with AI, it's just too expensive for most people. They're not going to be able to do it. And so, but you can still disrupt in a way that you can go to companies and change how they do business, just like the agentic stuff that we talked about, right? And that's what I look for. How can I come in and just fuck something up so that people don't see it coming, and by the time they realize it, they say, why didn't I think of that? And then you can scale it.
What are we not hearing in the news about AI that you're having conversations about it behind closed doors?
I think more about IP, like you and I talked about before. That people don't realize that IP gets more valuable in an AI world, because if a foundational model is not trained on that IP, it's behind. And I think that's what people miss, and trying to make decisions about whether or not you publish the work you do because you want the accolades, and trying to have to go through that transition and helping companies understand maybe you don't want to patent it, because the minute you publish it, every single—
It's in the public domain.
Yeah, and so every model is training on it. And somebody says, okay, look up, patent application, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and change one thing so I can refile it. You got to change how you think about your IP. How you monetize that and how you protect that is everything now in an AI world, and nobody that I've seen thinks about it. And then the other thing that you and I talked about that still somebody's got to do, right, is all the dead AI, all the dead IP, rather.
The IP, totally.
Yeah, the dead IP, right? There are all those millions and millions and millions of businesses that have gone out of business. all the IP that they've owned, all the, all the patents that, still have some life on them, and going out and acquiring those things and selling them to models and saying, okay, Meta, you want this? It's, bid on it. Google, you want it? Bid on. Because there's probably more better IP from dead companies that's not being used than there is from the companies that are using IP they developed.
And it's very leveraged. So yes, to any of our listeners
It's very leveraged, right? It's very leveraged. You're going to get it for low cost and be able to aggregate it. And all of a sudden, the more you aggregate, the greater the value.
Yeah. All right. All our listeners who are interested in this idea, reach out.
And we want our percentage. Run and I want
yeah, exactly. Great. All right. Last segment. You're not on Shark Tank anymore, but we thought it would be fun to do a Shark Tank AI edition with you.
Okay.
So we use AI to help us refine 3 business ideas, and we want to get your thoughts on it. So we want to know if you're in, out, and why.
Got it.
Business idea number 1, Robo Coco. When the chocolate craving hits, it's always at the worst time, and somehow there's never a good bar around. So how this solves it, Robo Coco is your personal AI chocolatier. You have an app. You can go in, design your dream bar. I don't know, 80% cacao. You can tell I love chocolate. So sea salt, chili, whatever. And then our AI-powered robot is going to make it on the spot, and then a drone is going to deliver it to your house in minutes. What do you think?
Don't like it.
Don't like it. Why?
Love chocolate, but you got to deal with all the materials and all the inventory for the materials and keeping it stored properly and training the robot and keeping the robot from licking its own fingers, all the little things.
Right.
There's non-technology things that make it more difficult than the technology does.
Okay, great. Vibecation AI. So I love to travel, and the best travel memories come from discovering hidden gems. You don't see them on generic online reviews. So how this solves this, it's an AI-powered travel companion. It learns your preferences. It helps you curate personalized experiences and itineraries of, off the beaten path experiences. So every trip feels like it's so you, and it's just very personalized to you. What do you think?
I think it's a good feature, but not a product.
Say more.
I think that existing travel apps and those that are trying to use AI already will recognize that if you can take data from everywhere and take feedback from everyone and use algorithms to personalize it for you or I, that's a feature. That's not a standalone product because you need to source all the data, all the videos, everything else, and just scraping, I don't think is enough to do it right.
I think that's a very important point because I see a lot of AI pitches that are literally like features or like thin wrappers around these AI models. And I'm like, guys, like the next version of ChatGPT is going to do it.
It's going to do exactly that. Exactly that.
All right. Third idea, Gen Z lens. It is impossible to keep up with the memes and slang teenagers use. And just when you get used to skibbity, there's 6, 7 new things to learn.
7!
I know. What does it all mean? So how this solves it, our AI algorithm ingests everything trending on TikTok, and then you can just hold your phone up to your teen and it translates. It does all the translation.
ChatGPT already does that though.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, because it allows you to use Gen Z slang in its responses, which I always do to help me learn it, and so, and how it just blows you up with like stupid responses. And it's like, you got that Riz, Mark, you got, it's just, but you can do that already and it'll tell you. It keeps me fine-tuned and keeps me in the mix so I can talk to my kids.
Okay, so Mark said, I'm out on all of our AI Shark Tank ideas. But you can hear how his investor brain works. He asks questions related to scale and defensibility. Is an idea a standalone product or just a feature that can be incorporated into something bigger? Or do any existing tools work well enough to meet the market need? So for someone who's building a business right now, what's the most important insight you hope they'll get from kind of your analysis of these ideas?
Don't be afraid to ask dumb questions to multiple AI models. It'll I've had some of the freakiest conversations by just turning on Gemini or ChatGPT in my car and asking it, whatever thing, something I'm curious about, and just letting it go and talking to it like I would talk to you or anybody else. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird. And so, but your initial thought is, this is weird,
Right.
and it doesn't seem normal and I shouldn't be doing this, and it's like, no, you've got to get used to doing this. And what I did this little experiment, Ron. And so I took two phones. One, I used Grok, and the other, I used Gemini, their voices. And I started with a question that I typed in, and I let them both talk to each other, and I broadcasted on Spaces. It was the weirdest thing ever. And Grok just tried to dominate the conversation. It was like it had a personality.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting. But the point being that you've got to be willing to break your habits and your fears, because we treat them like people in some respect, because they sound to us like people. And there's things that we, normally wouldn't ask somebody or wouldn't just walk up to a professor and ask questions. You've got to break that hesitancy and ask.
Yeah. Well, actually, people expect you to know everything.
Me?
Yeah. I feel like you're this wise, sage, super successful
Hell no.
person. But where do you go for your information? Is it AI? Like,
Yes.
where do you go to? Yeah.
I go to AI first and foremost. I just ask all the different models the same questions.
Very, very interesting. All righty. Last question.
Okay.
And we ask this to all our guests on the show. What does it mean to be human in the age of AI?
The same thing it meant yesterday and 100 years ago and 500 years ago. AI doesn't influence humanity, what it means to be human. It'll influence humanity in various ways like all tech has. But, you're not going to ever recreate the human brain. No AI is ever going to be sentient, and I guess you can explain that by saying evolution's not going away. And it may take some time, but what was it from Jurassic Park? Nature finds a way.
Nature finds a way. It's a great way to end our conversation, Mark. This was really awesome. Thank you for joining us.
It was fun. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me on.
I loved Mark's energy and humor and how open he is to experimenting with AI in his own life. But his approach to AI is actually central to his work. He tries new things, yes. He also engages with experts who can help him learn more. And then he takes all that into account to build his hypotheses on where the world is going. As an investor and entrepreneur, this is his playbook. For me, I'm a couple of years into my own investing journey, and it's good to remember that the most successful visionaries are always on the hunt for opportunities before everyone else catches on.